Gentlemen, I've brought you here to discuss the Eastwood problem.
It may be necessary to penetrate the Vinny Eastwood show.
The Vinny Eastwood show.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Oh, I've been working on a new Vinny scene. I think that might be the kind of penetration we need.
The Vinny Eastwood show. Sundays, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Live on Ground Zero Radio.
Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and hermaphrodites. My fellow slaves of the global plantation. The Vinny Eastwood show is bad news. It's like the news, but so much worse. It's the lighter side of genocide. Just because we're being exterminated doesn't mean we can't enjoy it. Otherwise, what's the point of being killed? The Vinny Eastwood show, where the only thing worse than living in a high-tech global police state run by child trafficking Satanists is Vinny's jokes.
And welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Vinny Eastwood Show, live today on New Zealand Freedom Hub Radio through Ground Zero Radio. Check out the website, download the app, and you can start listening to Ground Zero Radio almost immediately. The Vinny Eastwood Show episodes and archives are available on there, as well as Spotify and iHeartRadio and Podbean, I believe. If you are on those apps, search it up and have a look and what have you. And I'm very grateful to have you all here listening today. So those people who are watching on the Twitch, the Facebook and the YouTube, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever it is you happen to be in this wonderful world. For those of us in New Zealand, it's around about 10 a.m. on Mondays as well, when the show's going to be starting for the month of October. When we get into daylight savings time in November, that will be then 11 a.m. Till midday in the New Zealand Standard Time on the Mondays. And for those of you in the rest of the world, you haven't passed legislation in your country to make daylight saving last an extra month longer like New Zealand has. So it'll just be the same time, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard on Sundays, right there on Ground Zero Radio. Very grateful to have this network happen to pick me up. We had a discussion on New Zealand Freedom Hub Radio last night with Brendan and Barack and I believe Mr. Trotter about what happened when I left Republic Broadcasting Network, and this was all a bit confusing because they were like, "Oh, John Statmiller was still running it." It's like, no, he's actually passed away, and this whole thing about confusion. Okay, so the title of today's show is about managing stress as a conspiracy theorist. Okay, so as a conspiracy theorist, and I use that term operatively, there's a connotation that conspiracy theorist means you're a crazy person who doesn't know what's going on, or you believe things that just there's no facts or evidence to substantiate it. And in some cases, yeah, that's actually true. But in most cases, no, it's just not true. A conspiracy theorist is a person who believes, absolutely believes, cannot be convinced otherwise, that powerful people who have a lot of influence use their power to maintain and grow that influence. Very insane, right? And the opposite end of the spectrum to being a conspiracy theorist is a coincidence theorist, who believe that everything happens by coincidence. There's no such thing as deceit or backroom deals or planning. And at some point in the middle of the 20th century, the most wealthy and well-connected plutocrats, bureaucrats, and otherwise correctly termed sociopathic, psychopathic, child trafficking Satanists all got themselves together and decided to stop doing what they were doing in the mean and naughty ways they were. Okay, they just had this profound realization in the middle of the 20th century. And hey guys, I just realized that we're hurting people. You know, and the only reason we're doing it is for money and power. So, like, you know, it's just not justified. We've got enough money and power. Let's just let humanity be free and decide for themselves how their lives should be run. That's how a coincidence theorist thinks. They think that evil goes to sleep. Evil does not sleep. It waits. It waits for an opportunity. And we have given them the evil of this world, whether you want to call them the Jews, the reptilians, or whatever you think is actually running the show, or contributing to running the show, or as an integral part of the whole, regardless of how you really perceive that threat. The fact that you recognize that there is some kind of threat, that the world is not all sunshine and rainbows. And if you have done research into the real world applications, okay, so stress will come to you through a number of different veins because of your research, and depending on what you research as well. So some of you might be listening to this on a phone or a computer that is connected through Wi-Fi, and you may not have done your research to realize that Wi-Fi is a carcinogen, and it makes you sterile, and it affects your sleep very badly. Your hairs on your hands and your arms or whatever, they interpret light, okay? And when Wi-Fi signals beep, 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 are hitting your hairs on your body, they think that that's light, and they don't let you sleep properly and restfully, okay? And so you wake up and you'll be groggy and grumpy, and your body will not have been rested. Okay, the whole idea of a new world order coming into view only exists if the people who could stop it are disabled from doing so by various different means. A lot of people that I know who've become conspiracy theorists, who had the time to do the research to back up what their suspicions were, often have had health difficulties. A slipped disc that led them to cannabis, and cannabis led them on to prohibition, and prohibition led them on to realizing 9/11 was an inside job. You know, it's a very fractalized sort of research topic. And because you have an array of threats, because of the tactic of full spectrum dominance, the more aware you become of the threats that you face, the more stressed you could potentially become whilst dealing with them in a psychological way. If you're walking down the street and you're not a conspiracy theorist, it's just a street. If you are a conspiracy theorist, there are 5G towers that can mind control you, all right, that are weapons. There are police who belong to a cult. There are potholes that are caused by low-quality bitumen that doesn't hold the road together quite so well when we could have been making it ourselves, but they shut down our refinery, right? There's a huge layer of varying effects that you can see just with your own eyes because of the research that you've done. And often, not all the time, But often, the extra things that you see that other people don't aren't beautiful things, aren't nice things, aren't comforting things. So, if you're living in an environment where you're constantly surrounded by threat and an abuse of your sovereign being to a degree, this is going to cause a significant amount of stress. Now, what happens when you're stressed for a long period of time? You will get a mental disorder. Have you ever yelled at somebody, right? Because you just researched into something and you're like super hyped out and really stressed out about it or something, and they came in and they said the wrong thing at the wrong time and you just explode at them? Okay, that's a stress response. Your brain is not wired in the same way anymore. Dr. Sam Vaknin talked about this, that psychopathic narcissism is something akin to an unfair evolutionary advantage. That these are quote-unquote disorders, but what they've actually done is they've done a complete realignment of the brain to, instead of responding so much to beauty and love and that feeling of togetherness, what it instead gets rewired to think about and prioritize is self-preservation, self-advancement, and the elimination of threats that would prevent your survival. Okay, so in the conspiracy theory movement, you'll have a lot of people with this particular personality disorder or subset groups of it. Now, people think narcissist, they think evil, psychopath, or whatever, but no, this is a sliding scale. Okay, there's a bell curve. Down one end, you've got psychopaths. They have got no conscience, no creativity, and they will lie, cheat, steal, and they can do so shamelessly without guilt. They have no responsibility for their actions whatsoever. And taking down a peg all the way to the other end, you got ordinary, empathetic, creative people, what you might think of as artists. And my producer at Magic Sound Recording, he said that all artists, good artists anyway, are broken people. Broken people make the best and most beautiful things. Why? I believe that it's because if you've seen a lot of ugliness, it hurts you. And if you're able to create beauty, just create it, like out of nothing, it helps you. It therapeutizes you. I've been on a film set and I was talking to the other people on the crew about this, is that on a film set, it's a gathering of all of these broken people. They need to be treated nicely. They need to be appreciated. They need to be asked questions like, oh, do you need this? Do you need that? Or whatever. You kind of have to baby everybody a little bit. And people are like, I think they don't understand the value of somebody taking care of you like a responsible, caring, loving parent would. And they talk down about it like it's babying them or whatever. It's like, no, we're not dealing with adults here, okay? The vast majority of us are simply children that have aged considerably, all right? That's... A lot of us conspiracy theorists, a lot of people in general, haven't really been raised up. Okay, that's your consciousness, your ability to deal with things and be mature about it. We don't have those skills because nobody actually really sat us down at 18 years old and said, you know how I used to make your lunch for you for school? Yeah, well, you have to make your own lunch now. You know how I would cook you dinner and do the dishes afterwards? Yeah? Well, now you're going to have to cook dinner and do the dishes afterwards. You know how I used to drop you off at school? Yeah? Well, now you're going to have to drop yourself off somewhere, right? That's the thing. You transitioning from childhood into adulthood is not such a simple conversation like that, because people aren't responsible parents because of the various things that have been done to the social order by the New World Order. You see what I'm saying? So, with this whole complex post-traumatic stress disorder thing that you're going on, you're going to respond to threats in a completely different manner to an ordinarily unbroken person. An ordinary unbroken person will look at the threat, think about it, with their black and white prefrontal cortex primate brain. That's what does your maths and your black and white thinking. It's meant to be able to assess information. That's why reptiles and mammals, to a large degree, haven't developed to the position that primates have. Then, after you've assessed the threat, that's assuming it's a threat, your mammalian cortex, the middle part of your brain, will then kick in, and it starts to govern your social feelings, right? This is how herd animals work. And that is to do with your emotions. Thought, then emotion, and then after that threat has been thought about and felt, your brain will then kick in the reptilian cortex, your fight or flight centers, and you will then react to the stimulus that you're being given. There's a number of different responses here. Fight or flight are only 2 of the 5. The third is freeze. If the threat is so dangerous and you can't fight it and you can't run away from it, you will freeze. You will try and hide or something of that nature. You ever notice how people during these last couple of years tried to hide themselves away on Pornhub, trying to pretend like what was going on wasn't going on because they were too afraid, and their brain gave them a threat response measure that was able to preserve their life. It's a self-preservation thing. Then there is the submit response. Have you noticed how a lot of people just sort of bowed their heads, went along to get along, doing as they were told just because they couldn't find an alternative? And the last one, and this is really one of the more important ones, the one that the New World Order really loves to instill in people, this response, is attachment. We've seen this in Stockholm Syndrome, where people will be in a hostage situation, and by the end of that hostage situation, they begin to identify with the hostage takers, have an attachment to them. Now you understand why so many people have this new meme about Karens, okay? People who are so attached to the status quo and its enforcement that they feel like a self-appointed duty to make sure that everything goes the way it's supposed to, and everybody needs to be reported and knocked on and so on and so forth, because these people are in a threat response. They've faced a threat that they cannot escape from, that they cannot fight, that they can't hide from, that doesn't want their submission alone. And so they begin to identify with their captors. Okay? Now, this is what happens when you're a conspiracy theorist, because you will have these reactions through a spectrum based upon your interactions with other people. Your friends, your so-called friends, before being a conspiracy theorist, will go by the wayside because they don't want to hear about the conspiracies, and also you appear unbalanced. You appear like you don't have yourself together, and it creates a false impression that means that you don't know what you're talking about. But you do know what you're talking about, and that's why you're so stressed about it. And on top of that, you're so stressed about what you know that when these people who you're trying to save with this information? You're trying to tell them there's a bear over there, or the house is on fire, or something of that nature, and they laugh at you? This is how cults keep people in line. Ostracization. We are getting isolated in society quite to the significant degree. I remember having a conversation with Jonathan Eisen from Uncensored magazine in the New Zealand Journal of Natural Medicine. And I had this realization one time that many years ago, when I reached out to him as a young budding conspiracy theorist who wanted to start something, he had this particular lifestyle. And I realized recently that I'd copied his lifestyle. He lives a quiet life, does most of his work at home, doesn't venture out terribly often, and when he does, he only meets a relatively small number of different people, aside from events and things of that nature. A very specific cast of characters, much like us all. If you listen to this show, there's a good chance that you're a character of some description, that you've got a sense of humor, that you're reasonably intelligent, and you've seen some shit. Really dark stuff, painful stuff, things that were difficult for you to get over. And so if you visualize that, you realize that the cause of much of your pain and trauma has usually been because of people in a hierarchical position of authority, right? Or a group of people who are kowtowing to that authority and henpecking you because you don't gel with the groupthink. The cult indoctrination that people have gone through their entire lives has rewired their brains as well, just like the truth rewired yours. And once you've had this rewiring, then you've got to figure out, how do I actually live with it? How do I manage my stress levels? There's a number of things that you can do, and each work for different people. We're all snowflakes, they say. Not in the weak modern leftist context of snowflakiness, but more along the lines of the individual geometric patterns that emerge when you look at snowflakes under a microscope. They're all beautiful, and they're all different. Okay, so what works for one doesn't work for the other. So here's a couple of things. Reducing the amount of stress in your life, firstly, comes down to, who are you hanging out with that stresses you out? Are your family on side, or are they totally on the New World Order's side? If they're totally on the New World Order's side, just being around them, even if you're not having a conversation about anything meaningful, your body will begin to be in a stress response. And then if they do say something that irks you somewhat, that you disagree with, and then they don't listen to you, your body goes into a further, more hyped up, fight-like stress response, and you start family feuds and things of that nature. Or it might be different, where you totally kowtow, and then you feel very guilty and depressed about the things that you did because your family told you to, or because your friends told you to, even though you knew it was the wrong thing to do. Okay? So it doesn't matter what your response is to stressful people. The real key here is eliminate contact with people who stress you out to a large degree. My producer, the somewhat fabulous Mitch Santel, by the way, if anybody ever wants to start a radio show and you want the best producer in the business and you've actually got some coin to throw at him, frickin' get Mitch Santel, man. That guy taught me like practically everything I know about the talk radio game, and it's because of his training that I'm still here today. But nevertheless, he told me that you need to make a list of all the people in your life that say things like can't happen, won't happen, oh, you'll never get that off the ground, or that's a stupid idea, or something like that. People who are stressful unhelpful, don't believe in you, don't support you, things like that, and stop making an effort to contact them. If they call you, sure, have a conversation and things like that, but you just, because of the fact that they're not there to support you and help you, they're going to bring down your productivity, you're going to bring down your self-belief, and your belief in yourself is what's commonly known as an ego. All right, you ever had anybody give you crap about your ego or something of that nature? They're giving you crap about your sense of self, the fact that you've got one and they don't, because they have an indoctrinated thought pattern, which is instilled in them through years of successive trauma, isolation, repetition of pointless and meaningless tasks, sleep deprivation, food that is low in nutrition, and so on and so forth. Fluorescent lighting, their brain is not their brain. Their thoughts are not their thoughts. That's why they're so comfortable. If you think originally, it's going to be painful. That's why people create artwork, so that these original thoughts don't stay in their head, because these things that you think and believe and see being manifested into reality through your actions are painful. Because you're therapeutising yourself. You're growing a particular type of psychological or emotional muscle in your body. And anybody who's ever worked out to try and, get muscle or whatever, know that there's pain involved there. Our pain centres are intimately tied with our pleasure centres. If you don't have any pain, you're going to have a lot of pleasure in order to feel any pleasure at all. Okay? If you're not working hard and then playing hard, you don't really thrive on the massive boost of those chemicals that run through your body that indicate a reward system. What we're not doing properly is rewarding ourselves. Just imagine for a moment, just close your eyes if you can or whatever. Imagine who you are, right? Who you are is what's happened to you and how you've responded to it. How many bad things have happened to you? How many bad people have done nasty things to you? How many horrible realizations have you come to because of the research that you've been doing? All that darkness, all that trauma, all that frustration, and look at yourself now. Did you lose your sense of humour? Nope. Did you stop listening to your conscience? Nope. Did you lose your creativity? Nope. So, regardless of these things happening to you, unlike the vast majority of people who don't have the strength, or rather don't have the upbringing to have any kind of real belief in themselves beyond what the group validates, you have still managed to maintain and grow your soul, right? The very part of you that is in there that they can't get to. You've put up a barrier around it to protect it. And this has damaged you. It's damaged you trying to remain independent. It's caused a lot of pain in your life. And that's why it's so important. Because without that pain, there wouldn't be any growth. And you'd be just like all of these other people, who the most sophisticated conversation that they can really manifest has nothing to do with the holographic fractal being projected by collective consciousness experiencing itself subjectively, aka God. No, it's like sport. Or how to shear a sheep. Something mundane. Right? This is the pinnacle of the intellectual conversation that I see being had by ordinary people who aren't conspiracy theorists. It is effing boring. You, on the other hand, are relatively interesting, are quite cool, know how to have a good time, because you know the value of having a good time because of the crap that you've been through in your life. You know, you could have had it with your partner or with your children or anything like that. But the point of the fact is, and if I may backtrack a little bit, you have to be a certain age, generally speaking, to be a conspiracy theorist. I think the peak of conspiracy theoryism is around about the mid-30s, early 40s kind of thing, because you will go through school and nobody will teach you conspiracy theories at school. You'll go through university, nobody will teach you conspiracy theories in university. You go through your job, nobody will teach you conspiracy theories at your job. And then after you've been in that job for a little while and you get your first promotion and you realize that the promotion that you've been hanging on for, the little carrot that's been dangling around in front of you for your school qualifications and your university qualifications and then your new promotion at your job and things of that nature that you're supposed to want and is supposed to make you happy, you don't want. And it doesn't make you happy. Does it? And you start wondering if there's something more. That's about the time when you've had enough. When you're smart enough to recognize the possibility. Not necessarily recognize, but recognize a possibility that not all is as it seems. Because you have to experience this to a significant degree before it actually dawns on you sometimes. And so that's why the youth are greatly underrepresented in the conspiracy theory movement. They are almost, the vast majority of them, leftist activists or just indifferent, apathetic hedonists, right? That's the youth of today. And that's not, an intergenerational thing or whatever. There's a cycle in history. It is said that hard times create good men. Good men create good times. Good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. Okay? Over and above the cycle. That's what we're at right now. We have weak men and hard times are coming because we've had it too easy for too long. And we have become weak as a result to the lack of challenge. I remember many years ago I had the creator of Biodome on the show where they had an enclosed ecosystem under a big dome to see what would happen. And the trees that were growing inside this dome wouldn't get very tall. They would reach a certain height and then they would literally break under their own weight and fall down. I immediately recognized what that meant. The lack of wind. The wind in your life is what makes you bend and resist. Just like a tree. And if the tree has no wind to batter it, it has no need to find out how strong it needs to be to stand upright. So very much like our society, a lot of people have no real world dangers that they have to deal with and threats and things of that nature, not on a daily basis usually anyway. And so we've become so relaxed about life that we've lost the point and the meaning of it. When you become a conspiracy theorist, on the other hand, I would hope that because you recognize that you're a slave, yes you are, I'm sorry if this is news for you, to a totalitarian elite who are inhuman in their nature, some would say alien in nature or whatever, but it's irrelevant the kind of degree you want to get into. The point is you're not being respected and you're not free. That's scary because it means that they could do anything to you at any point. There's no stability. And to go from all this comfort to suddenly having a real world threat that's sort of in your mind the whole time is a difficult measure. So what I do is I make sure that I start off my day on the right note. Okay, I make sure that I have myself some time to wake up properly in the morning, have a shower, have a nice breakfast, and really get myself into a good headspace for the day. Sometimes I'll wake up stressed or something of that nature, and I'll just do this. Where am I? I'm right here. What time is it? It's right now. Is there a threat coming to kill me in the next 60 seconds? Nope. Take a deep breath. And you're back in reality. The reason why you're so stressed is because you're living in the past. Or you're living in the future. You're not here. And it's not now. Okay? Anxiety. Depression. These things aren't here right now. They're just in your head. They exist in the future or they exist in the past. You're depressed about something that's happened to you, or you're anxious about something that may never happen to you. And the thing that happened to you that you are depressed about ain't happening anymore, and there's no reason to be depressed about it. Alright? Now, this isn't to say that you can't be depressed and you can't feel sad. Yes, you can. It's completely justifiable. There's a reason why your body releases these chemicals into your bloodstream. Or rather, not chemicals, frequencies. It's a tone. It's a pattern. It's an interpretable signal that your body is sending you because it wants you to behave in a certain way for the method of self-preservation. If you become a conspiracy theorist, there is a good chance that you will go through the grief process. Who you were, the indoctrinated slave, is probably, unless you've been at this quite a long time and been doing the work, that's more the important part, you're still the same dummy slave that you used to be. Okay, I'm sorry if you take that as an insult, but I'm just telling you the truth, and I'm speaking the truth about myself as well as everybody else that I've met in this movement to a large degree, with a number of notable exceptions, lots of exceptions in point of fact. But doing this work is about adjusting to your new reality, adjusting to it. Who you were before is still who you are now, unless you want to change. Like David Holden, the sponsor of this show from holdenhealthcare.com, told me, you have two choices if you've got a health problem, and I think this extends to a mental health problem as well, and I think we've all got those to a degree. You can die, or you can change. It's only a choice about what you want to kind of put yourself through. So if you're getting rid of stressful people from your life, if you're having a good morning every morning, and if you're having a relaxing evening every evening, and you are avoiding stress around the time after you wake up and before you go to sleep, just so that you can sleep or you can enjoy your day, this is going to eliminate a significant amount of the triggers. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have addictions of some description, whether it be a screen addiction or an alcohol or a cigarette addiction or something like that. All you're doing is self-medicating. And I got no judgment, really, for anybody who self-medicates. If you got to do what you got to do in order to get through the day. Don't you? Man, you've been through so much. You deserve a drink. You deserve a smoke. Whatever it is that gets you going, you have my permission. All you're doing is doing it to yourself. And all addicts, according to Barry Cooper, who's the most decorated drug enforcement officer of all time in the United States, all addicts are just people with unresolved trauma. So how do we resolve these traumas then? Well, have you tried a good dose of magic mushrooms? Now, you may think I'm joking here, but I'm not. The ancients new. There's even a painting or a mural or whatever of Jesus in Italy in some church somewhere, with Jesus pointing to the mushroom. Okay? I am the way, the truth, and the light. None can come to the Lord except through me. He was talking about tripping, man. Why? Because the trip has a collective consciousness, a hive mind. You'll find that if you, and some people who have taken mushrooms more than once will probably share this thing, because it's ubiquitous, the experience, you will run into, while you're on mushrooms, other people who just happen to be on mushrooms too. You'll just run into them. Because the mushrooms like to communicate with each other. And they like to communicate with you too, and they like you to be open about it. They've got their own consciousness. They live in the dark. Okay? Things that live in the dark, like in the deep recesses of the ocean, create their own light. And because the mushrooms can't really see anything, they have to create their light on the inside. And when you ingest that light, it affects your mind. You want to be in the dark. You want to have your eyes closed. And you will see these amazing patterns and beautiful colors and things of that nature. And of course, if you've got your eyes open, you'll see all sorts of distortions in the reality around you. Because you are literally bathing your brain in light, the light of creation, the light of truth. And so you can take these things and go on a quote-unquote trip, and you will take back things from this, realizations. I remember I had a realization of why I'm not quite so close with my family, because our family situation was not the best. And as the youngest, there's an instinct, to expect your brother and your sisters to take care of you. But they couldn't take care of me because they had to try and take care of themselves in the stressful environment that we were brought up in. And so our family's not particularly close in that sense, right? Had that realization while on mushrooms. A number of other things, what I've done to the mothers of my children and my children, and how much more responsibility I need to take and what have you. And so after having these realizations, you need to apply them. If you're not close with your family and the mushroom tells you what you've got to do in that vein, give them a call. Right? If the mushroom tells you that you need to be seeing your kids more, see your kids more. All right? It's just like that. It's merely a removal of a lack of awareness. It shines light on the dark places within yourself so that you can change. You can evolve. You can come to the light of truth. And also, MDMA. Apparently have been used on lots of therapeutic tests and things of that nature. Very, very good at helping people to come to profound realizations. Also, let's not forget ayahuasca and San Pedro cactus, peyote to a degree as well. All these, what we call drugs. Think about the irony that today, if somebody's depressed, do they take one mushroom trip, have some profound realizations, and then change their life and are suddenly not depressed anymore because the mushroom told them how to live their life in a way that wasn't depressing? Or do they take some kind of antidepressant or a serotonin reuptake inhibitor, which will addict them to that drug over time and also damage their internal organs and be very expensive? You see? As opposed to mushrooms you can pick up on the side of the highway in the right season. You see? They're trying to do everything to you, as opposed to what exists in this world, which is trying to allow you to do things for yourself. All right? There's a difference between tyranny and freedom. Ostensibly, is freedom trusts that you will, if given the choice, make the right choice for you and those around you. Tyranny believes that you do not have the right to make those decisions for yourself, because you could make the wrong decision potentially, and therefore we need to control every decision you could ever make. In so doing, you restrict the possibility of anybody creating anything original, or anything therapeutic, or anything cool. And everything becomes a stale shade of beige, doesn't it? Everybody too worried about what everybody else thinks. Everybody trying to go with the flow and go with the trends and things of that nature. No, it's not. That doesn't really excite people. Not really. You ever watched a movie years ago and you forgot that you'd seen it because it's so unoriginal, unfunny, uninteresting, that your brain decides that it's not worth remembering? You know how you have those conversations with people who just seem to drone on and on and on, and they're not really making any sense, and they're not really going anywhere, and they're not succinct in the way that they speak, and they're just all over the place, and it's just exhausting, and you can't remember a single thing that they've said after the fact? Right? It's because your brain doesn't care. Your brain knows what's good. Your brain knows what's interesting. Your brain knows what's good for you, if only it gets exposed to it. That's why so many people are languishing in big bouts of depression and sickness and rage, because the things you've learnt, you haven't applied. Right? Knowledge without application is the definition of useless knowledge. It is important for you to recognize this. There are endless shows, there are endless books, there are endless documentaries that you can absorb, that are worth your time, that help to clarify your thoughts and help you change the things that you are doing in your life. And there are lots of other things which serve nothing other than to drain your time and attention, which are the only two spiritual currencies. At the moment you're listening to this show, you're giving me your time. You're giving me your attention. Essentially, you're creating a stream of spiritual energy that you're sending towards me whilst I'm doing this show. And that energy, I hope, is returned to you. That at the end of a broadcast of the Vinny Eastwood show, you will feel a profound sense of relaxation, of calm and contentment. You could listen to this show in the morning and have a good day afterwards. You could listen to the show at night and get a good night's sleep. That's the whole idea. It's supposed to be relaxing and enjoyable for your brain to process. And the reason why it needs to be that way is because, like me, you've experienced some kind of trauma, and you don't need people yelling at you. You don't need people insulting you. You don't need people talking down to you. All you want to do is feel like you're not alone, isn't it? You want to feel like there's somebody who understands, don't you? That's why I do it. Because at one point in my life, in my upbringing, nobody wanted to listen to me, nobody understood me, and that was very sad for me. And so I want to be here for you, to listen to you, to understand you, to help you come to listen to yourself and what you really think and what you really believe, and to understand yourself. Only once you've reached that real understanding of how glittering with gold. You truly are as a human being. I mean, have you ever compared yourself? I mean, I know we all, in a general way, compare ourselves with other people. This person's prettier than me, they're skinnier than me, they're smarter than me, they're more successful, blah, 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 blah. But no, I'm not talking about thinking down on yourself. Like you see the Instagram models having their wonderful lives in Dubai, where they're probably being paid by a sheikh to have unprotected sex or something of that nature in exchange for a whole bunch of cash, when they couldn't really be doing that, and it's totally illegal, and if they did get caught, the sheikh wouldn't experience any trauma at all. I digress. What we're talking about here is your capacity to cope with the situation, right? How do you cope? Knowing what you know and going through the process when you compare yourself to other people. Just have a look at them. I'm sure you've done this. I've done it. You make assumptions. You make deductions. You go around and you look at people. I remember I drove... it still makes me laugh to even think about it. I drove past a police officer who had pulled somebody over on the side of the road, and I got a look at the police officer's face, and you could tell just from the look on his face. Like, have you ever seen somebody who's got a learning disability? All right, you can just tell right away just from looking at them, or their eyes or the expression on their face, that they're not that bright. It just cracked. I just burst out laughing at how dumb this cop looked. I'm seeing his face in my head right now. Oh my god, so dumb. Like, honestly, I've seen two planks of wood together, nailed together, that look smarter. I've seen ducks in my backyard waddling towards me that looked more intelligent than this cop. I'm telling you guys, it was. I've seen cows being marched along farms that look like they had a bit more, they had more going on upstairs than this cop, bro. I'm telling you, he was dumb, bro. Like so dumb that it's unfreaking believable. You can almost see it. Can you see his face like I can? It's just, oh my god. Anyway, the point of that exercise is to realize how far you've come and how much better than you are than other people. And this isn't ego or anything like this. This is objective reasoning. Objective reasoning. You can objectively see that most people, we're talking maybe at least 80%, maybe 95, 96, 97% of people are dumber than you. Okay? If you listen to shows like this and you've become a conspiracy theorist, that is a good indicator that you have a much higher level of intelligence than the average person in the population. The average person in the population isn't even capable of processing this information. I remember my mate told me that if your IQ is 20 points lower than somebody, you won't even be able to understand or even have it explained to you the things that person knows. Okay? You're actually too dumb to even be able to comprehend it. You're not that dumb, though. Are you? Think about that. Just for a moment. There's something that's really good about that you're bright. There's something good about that you've got a sense of humor. There's something good that you talk about meaningful things, complex things, right? There's something important about you that is different from the vast majority of people currently experiencing consciousness in this manifestation on this temporary plane of existence. Okay, you've got something meaningful and special and valuable about you, and you are a better person than a lot of these other people. All right? That may sound arrogant, that may sound egotistical, but again, it's just an objective fact. These people aren't as bright, they're not as moral, and they're not as cool, and they're not as fun, and they're not as creative as people like us. Now, there's two things that you need to take away from that realization. Number one, thank goodness I'm me. Thank goodness I'm not one of these dolts with their V8 cars and their big screen TVs with sport on it, who try to get hustling their way through life, not actually having a single intellectual conversation for 20 years in a row. You know, I'm not one of those, thank goodness. But the second realization is actually the harder one. If you are better than people, you have a responsibility to them. You do. If you're smarter than your children and they are unable to process a threat, no, don't go across the road without looking both ways or whatever, then you have a responsibility to care for them and to teach them. Okay? The reason why this realization is harder is because although you have a responsibility to teach these people, they don't want to learn. Do they? So you're constantly, perpetually frustrated by trying to be responsible with the gifts that have been given to you, and people won't frickin' accept it. I understand, guys. I understand. More than perhaps I know how perpetually frustrating it is to know what you know, to do what you do, and to feel unappreciated, to feel talked down to by people who aren't as smart or as good as you. Okay, I understand. But you keep trying to do the right thing anyway. There's the acceptance of the situation that you've given. You've been given a tough job. Right? You ever seen a documentary footage of like the Empire State Building when it was first being constructed? You know? The work that went into it. All these people doing such hard work in order to create the tallest building in the world. That's what we're doing. Except we're not making a building. We're making a shift in the consciousness of the entire human race. Something that is far taller. Something that shines far brighter, and something that can hold so much more than anything that can be constructed by the hands of men. That is what we're here to do. A divine purpose, a magnum opus, the great work. And if you're not doing your great work, you will be perpetually frustrated by the fact. So don't have any illusions. Don't talk down to yourself. I won't have it. You are good. Yes, you are. Shh. Just listen. I'm telling you the truth. You're freaking awesome. And you have amazing abilities. If you just simply believe that, or rather know that, come to that realization, you will stop talking yourself out of things. You know, I come across a lot of radio show hosts who are like, oh, how did you get this person? How did you get that person? How did you get so many great international guests on your show, Vinny? Because I did the one thing that no New Zealander thought of. I asked them. I had the confidence to ask because I had nothing to lose. As far as I was concerned, we could have all been killed tomorrow with some kind of poisonous chemtrail or something. You know, it's just, you do what you can with the time that is given to you. And a lot of people, they say, oh, Vinny, I was going to send you an email, but I thought you might have been too busy. And I was like, don't talk yourself out of it. You don't think that because somebody's busy, that they're too busy to have time for you. Just Ask. If you want something, ask for it. And generally speaking, you shall receive. This is how the universe really works. Those 3 stages: input, processing, output. You have a look at something. It might be the passion of your life. This is how you get rid of the stress as a conspiracy theorist, is having a point to your life, a passion for it. And you can only figure out what that is if you've undergone this process. First process is input, or commonly known as grammar. Who, what, when, where, why, and how. Ask those questions about any subject. You want to be a builder? You want to be a plumber? You want to be a computer programmer? You want to be an aeronautical engineer? Ask those questions. Find out the answers. Then stage 2 begins. Processing. Once you've got all those answers, you have to then practice them over and over and over again so they become like muscle memory. And at the point where you've done something for so long, whether it be playing the guitar or setting up internet radio stations or whatever, if somebody can come up to you and ask those questions to you, who, what, when, where, why, and how, and you can just rattle off answers just like that, then it's time for stage 3 of your life, which is to teach what you know to others. This is the purpose of all of our lives, guys. Regardless of how your life actually expresses, that purpose is irrelevant. If you know the who, what, when, where, why, and how of what you're doing for a quote-unquote living, and you're not teaching it to other people, you're not passing on that knowledge, you are not fulfilling your purpose. Okay? This is your purpose, to wake up all these people who are pretending to be asleep. No easy task. And if it were an easy task, it would require lesser people to perform it. But thankfully, we're not relying on lesser people to wake up and raise the consciousness of mankind. We're relying on you. And you doing your best is exactly enough. So thank you very much for being you, for doing what you do, and for maintaining your soul and your consciousness, for helping humanity, but for not sitting on the sidelines, by not ignoring all of the things that go on. Thank you. All right? Just on behalf of the human race, thank you. All of mankind should be grateful to you, as I'm being grateful right now, because I understand your value. I've spoken to so many of the listeners on this show and the guests off air and things like that, and we're all cut from a very similar cloth. Some of us are real nasty people who don't bear repeating, though, on the other hand, and just stop collaborating with those people and just move on and work with the people who are good, because there are bad people in this conspiracy theory movement. I'll tell you what, they have not adjusted to it well, and they are still the same bad person that they were before they became a conspiracy theorist. Be wary of them. Don't let your defenses totally down when it comes to this movement, guys. I will give you that warning for free, and you may find it very valuable indeed. So with that being said, guys, I am needing you to go to thevinnieeastwoodshow.com. That's Vinny with a Y, because it's the most important question. And Eastwood, like, go ahead. Make my news. And go ahead, ladies and gentlemen, if you value the content that I put up, if you value the input I give, whether it's to yourself or to this movement, this show operates under the peer-to-peer economic model, which means I will just create this, I will put it up for free, and if you value it, and if you think that it's necessary, if you think that it's good and you want to see more of it, go to thevinnieeastwoodshow.com, and on the homepage there will be Patreon, PayPal, and KiwiBank options that you can donate to the show. And for those of you who donate regularly and set up those automatic payments, I just want to give a big shout out to you. You guys know who you are. And some of you have been donating for many, many years, and you're the very reason. You're the producers of the show, and it's the reason why I don't think I actually will ever give up doing the show, because people are relying on me, and they support me. And as a result of that support, I choose to want to be reliable, somebody you can count on. And that's the reason why, if you have donated already, on the homepage it says click here for your special rewards. And in there you will find my contact details. Yes, I want you to give me a call on my cell phone. Yes, I do. Don't argue with yourself and say, oh, Vinny's probably too busy, or maybe it's not the right time, or something like that. Make contact. Send me an email. Add me on Skype. Whatever it is you want to do, just have one conversation with me. You may not even know what's going to happen during that conversation. I'll be getting a call from somebody random who's like just basically an awesome person, and I know because every person who's called me on behalf of the show or through this has been an awesome person so far. And we'll have a great conversation, and we'll help each other with things. Okay? It's a two-way thing. And I've got lots of skills and talents and things of that nature. You may have projects that you want to get up off a thing. You might have something personal that you've been dealing with. You may have recently experienced some kind of grief or whatever. Use Vinny Eastwood as your counsellor. Okay? Go right ahead. Use Vinny Eastwood as your producer to help set up your radio station or something like that. I am a resource. I am here to be used and utilized, and I don't have any hang-ups about it, because I can help people and help them very well in short periods of time. Some people can have their life changed and their entire career path altered for the better based upon one conversation with me. The reason why that is because you know who you are, but you don't necessarily know what you think. And my skill is sitting here listening to you, really listening to you, paying attention to what you're actually thinking, hearing all your complaints, all your concerns, all your stresses, all your frustrations, and being able to see how they fit together and how they can be fixed to a degree. Like those, like those weird life coaches who like make you do anything like that. I'll be like, nah, I'll just tell you a few things, and you can do what you want with that information. And if it works for you, that's great. If it doesn't work for you, that's on me. So thank you so much for all of you who support the show, and all those people in the chat room as well. I believe we've got a number of people. WCB99 on the Twitch here. He says I need to start a 24-hour radio station. 24 hours of Vinny Eastwood all day, every day. It's all Vinny all the time! And Chris Young has been said to be supporting this show for a long time, since we had David Icke come here back in the day. I helped him and his team organise the where the venues are going to go and all of that sort of thing. And he's just put in, remember how I was talking about the dumb cop that I saw and I was just cracking up laughing? Well, he's put a little meme of Officer Doofy from a Scary Movie, like the are you allowed to say retarded anymore? I like saying retarded, because some people just, not people who are actually, differently abled per se, but they're just willfully frickin' stupid. That's the operative usage of the word retarded, as far as I'm concerned. And Officer Doofy from from Scary Movie almost looks, in terms of temperament, exactly like that police officer that I saw. You know, you can't make this shit up, bro. You just can't make it up. I mean, it's unbelievable to me how much fantasy is like reality. And I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who's been participating in the chat room. A lot of people. Alan Mosdale, Tequila, and Barry, and Tina, Laurel, Belle, Shelley, Mark, and somebody with a name in Arabic. I'll just call him Rahim. I don't know how to pronounce. And Piripi and Joe. Hey Joe, how you doing, man? Chris, of course, and Serenos. And Lynette, guys, thank you so much for all of your comments and support in the chat room here today. And oh my goodness, we've even been given a super chat by Mr. Bushman. He gave us 20 New Zealand dollars. He says, "Coffee, bruv. We of you, pal." I believe he means we love you, pal. And I love you too, Mr. Bushman. Thank you so much. That's very, very appreciative of that. And Amos as well. Amos 777 has given $7, that is $7 Australian dollars, into the super chat of the show today. And of course we've got DK Spiracy in there as well. You know who the best mod, right, in New Zealand, like in the whole freaking country, the best mod is DK Spiracy, and he's my mod. He just helps me, like. He keeps the trolls out. He posts the links. He's there practically every single show right when it starts and stuff like that. The man is a marvel. Thank you, DK, and thank you, Amos, as well. These guys are my mods on the YouTube there, and they're just so savagely fantastic. I just love it. And Debbie Lacey, we always see you in there. We got so many regulars, listeners, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm so grateful to you guys, man, all the time. It's like, you know, when you go to school and you've got a group of friends, and just when the lunch break comes out, you actually get to hang out with your friends, and you're not distracted by the schooling part. It's like that. You give me good vibes, bro. Got Davey Z in there as well as Cliff Tone and D'Angelo, looking like she's. It looks like when I was making that thing about the cop being so stupid, it was actually making a lot of people really crack up, laugh out loud. Cliff Tone calls me a conspiracy therapist, and I think that's probably it. You know, if I had to give myself a label, I mean, not that I'd actually fit in that one little box or whatever. I've got like about 20 boxes that I don't fit into because there's all these different boxes that's seemingly contradictory. But a conspiracy therapist, that's a good one, Cliff. I really appreciate that. Actually, I'm gonna keep that. So yeah, guys, thank you again so much, so very much, for being who you are, for doing what you do, and for giving me your time and your attention today. I very much appreciate you, and thank you very much to groundzero.radio. Make sure you go and get the app, guys. All right, you can start listening to Ground Zero Radio like that, like quicker than you can say Fat Sam. You can start listening to Ground Zero Radio on your phone. There are significantly large quantities of very talented talk radio show hosts on the network who have been around a long time. That's how you can tell, really, if somebody is good, if they've been around for quite some time and they're still going. Well, that and also Charlie Lamsom's rant, which is the worst show that I've ever been on, but I keep going on it because it's just so bad that it's good. Right, Charlie Lamsom's rant on Blog Talk Radio back in the day, man, that was my God, it was just bad. And I think I made it worse. I don't even know how that's possible, but I did, bro. Oh, man. Oh, dude. Lynette in the chat says, thanks, Vinny. I needed that talk. I was procrastinating. One final bit before I go. You ever heard of the Gettysburg Address? 7 years ago. It just happened after this big battle of Gettysburg during the Civil War in the United States. The biggest battle ever. Like, huge amounts of people dead, maimed, stuff like that. Abraham Lincoln wrote that speech minutes before his train arrived to deliver it. Okay? Procrastination isn't necessarily a bad thing. You'll be surprised how good you can do things if you're right in the moment, right when that happens. All right? So it's the thing about not talking down to yourself. If you're procrastinating, don't tell yourself you're procrastinating, because then your procrastination isn't being used for anything. If you're trying to get yourself into a good headspace because you've been through some crap or whatever and you just need a bit of a chance to rest, and all this other crap that's going on around you is just like, it's too much or whatever, don't talk down to yourself as well. Break it down into tiny little chunks. Like, for example, I have to sand and paint the deck at the house that I'm renting. I offered to do this, stupidly. And I realized that that's a really huge job. So I sand a tiny little bit every time I get a chance. And then I'm going to paint a tiny little bit every time I get a chance. And eventually it'll get done. Sort of like if you've got my bookcase. You guys can't see it. It's out of frame, but it used to be packed up and stacked with all of this stuff. And every time I came into my office, I was like, for years and years and years. And the other day, I realized that I could move that. I was able to organize it and make it look all cleanly and spiffy and stuff like that. And it's just like, that's one thing. And now there's 1,000 more things to go. The way that they do it on the space shuttle, assuming there are such space shuttles and stuff like that. God, I'm sounding like a flat earther. Anyway, the protocol, if something goes wrong on the space shuttle, is you make a list of all the things that are going wrong, and you list them from the most difficult to the easiest, and then you knock off the easiest stuff first, because by the time you have to get to the big, tough jobs, you won't have any of these other little jobs distracting you, and you can have your full concentration on that big, important job. So just have a look at all the little things, okay? All the easiest things. What's the easiest thing that you could do right now? Is it doing the dishes? Is it tidying out your wardrobe? Is it starting to move just a few things in the garage? Is it downloading open broadcast software? Tiny, little, easy things. Find the easiest things that you can do, just as long as you can do them. And that way, when you do have those thoughts about doing the big things, you'll actually be able to do them. And you won't have your head full of all the stress of all the other things that you've got to do as well. All right, so just thank you, Lynette, for that last comment you did as well. That therapist, if you spell it out, spells the rapist. I very much appreciate that. Now, excuse. Davey Z says in the chat, Gettysburg is about a 6 to 7 hour drive from me. Most of our elementary schools take field trips to DC and visit Gettysburg. And one more note on the Gettysburg and Abraham Lincoln, just while we've got time, is that this journalist, I forget their name, was walking through the town, and they were outside one of the medical army barracks where you had people with legs blown off and bullet wounds and stuff like that. And this journalist was passing by it, hearing laughter, uproarious laughter coming from this place where theoretically everybody would just be injured and half dead, stuff like that. So it was very curious. So they went into it, and they saw the president, Abraham Lincoln, sitting with all these injured soldiers, and telling them jokes and making them laugh. And the journalist was offended. They came up and they said, "Mr. President, how can you be so jovial in such times?" And the president replied, "Because if I didn't laugh, I'd cry." That's why we'd use the sense of humor on this show, guys. Because you've felt too much of that pain. You've felt too much of that trauma. And you need to be able to release it. Okay? Take the pressure off. That's what we're here to do. And that's why I ask for your donations and your support. Because I want to be able to keep doing this. And I know that it does help people. But I can't do it as effectively without appropriate financing. And just wonderful people like you giving the tiny little things that you have and the little contributions you make. You may think that it doesn't really matter. You may think it's too small, $1's too small or something like that. No, it all matters. And I'm grateful for all of it, because without those tiny little things adding up at the end of the week or something, like, for example, both of my ex-partners have been in trouble within recent memory, as recent as today, actually. And I had extra money in my account that I didn't know what it was there for. You ever get that? You've got, hey, I've got extra money, and then all of a sudden something comes and swoops in and takes it away. It was like that. One partner needed money for extra food, and the other partner needed money for car repairs and stuff like that, and I just happened to have that at the time. So I gave it to them, because, they're the mothers of my children, and I want to make sure that they're taken care of. And the reason why I was able to do that is because of the contributions from people like you. You're helping me, you're helping my ex-partners, you're helping my children, that kind of thing. And I couldn't be more grateful, I could try to be more grateful, and I don't think I could. I really, really appreciate you guys, and thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for everything that you've ever done for me. I will never be able to pay it back. I can only promise to pay it forward, because there's a lot of things that I can do to help people, and I'm doing them, and I will not stop. Unless, of course, I get exterminated by ruthless criminal sociopathic scumbaggery. Anyway, that's the show tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for your attention and your time. And go to thevinnieeastwoodshow.com, groundzero.radio. And also thank you so much to Barack from New Zealand Freedom Hub Radio as well for having me on last night and letting us hijack their streams today, so you guys could listen live. So I'll have a chat with Barack after this, and we'll see how that went. And as they say in Palestine, without further ado, we'll see you again next time.
Gentlemen, I've brought you here to discuss the Eastwood problem.
It may be necessary to penetrate the Vinny Eastwood show.
The Vinny Eastwood show.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Well, I've been working on a new Vinny scene. I think that might be the kind of penetration we need.
The Vinny Eastwood show. Sundays, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Live on Ground Zero Radio.
Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and hermaphrodites. My fellow slaves of the global plantation. The Vinny Eastwood show is bad news. It's like the news, but so much worse. It's the lighter side of genocide. Just because we're being exterminated doesn't mean we can't enjoy it. Otherwise, what's the point of being killed? The Vinny Eastwood show We're the only thing worse than living in a high-tech global police state run by child trafficking Satanists. It's Vinny's jokes.
You see, this beastly, ghastly show has been exposing our scumbaggery, which we call necessary.
Yeah, and as the World Economic Führer, I believe we should give him a little gift with a little card that says Merry Christmas from Santa Claus.
Oh, yeah, we could send something through his windows. Yeah, I've been speaking with Jacinda Ardern that we need to eliminate the threat of Vinny Eastwood.
Why do you say Vinny Eastwood when it's clearly Winnie Eastwood?
Absolutely, he's a major impediment to our planet, and it's how are we going to get rid of him?
We could poison his water supply.
We've done that already.
Okay, I'm running out of ideas here. I'm sorry, I've got a lot going on. Klaus Schwab Jr. telling people that I'm some evil overlord.
Oh, that's just not true. You see, we're lifetime actors.
Yes, we play the role, don't we?
But I am still glad, I mean, even if I am not really the overlord, and I have penetrated all the cabinets of the world, you know, penetration is big for me.
Oh, it's big for me, too. I wouldn't be me if it weren't for the copious quantities of penetration.
Yeah, so thank God my mother's out of the way. Otherwise I never would have been king. Just keep to go on and on. You know, the stress of dealing with this Vinny Eastwood problem is probably what killed her. I mean, she was a very young 96, you see.